Hello everyone, welcome to Chess Visor. In today's video, I'm going to show you the thriller as well as the interesting blitz game played between Arjun Erigaisi and Praggnanandhaa. It was the blitz section with the 5+3 increment, and I think the first game was won by Arjun, and the second game I think Prag must win in order to force the tie break. And let me show you that game very quickly. It was an interesting game out of all the games, that's why I'm showing this game. So with white pieces, Arjun starts the game with 1 e4, Prag replies with the move e5, and we are seeing the common opening, that is Italian opening, and especially the Gioco piano. So d3, d6, all are common stuffs, and castles, and then a6, trying to create an escape square for the bishop when the pawn comes and gain the tempo on the bishop. So bishop g5, pinning down the knight, and here bishop a7. After a4, here Prag simply quotient the bishop's post, and here after bishop h4, even Prag plays this move, pawn to g5. Since Arjun has castled earlier, and also Prag's king is still in the center, now he has the option of castle on the queen side. That's why he's trying to attack on the king side early, and also he wants to create some imbalance so that he can work on that imbalance to create the win. So that's why he is doing this. So after bishop g3, look at the bishop's post. So it is kind of weird for the bishop's post, as well as it is like in a prison now. And now after knight e7, and I think this knight is looking to come to the f4 square, where it will put great deal of pressure on the king. So knight e7, and then he plays d4. It's a very logical move because Prag is attacking on the flank, and why not I open the center? That's the principled move here, pawn to d4. And here Prag simply take the pawn, knight takes e4, and then we have d takes e5. In this position, actually there is a piece sacrifice, a crazy piece sacrifice you can do, that on knight takes e5, and then d takes e5. Since the king in the center, we can go for this line. Maybe it could be a possibility if it is a classical game. And after bishop takes e5, hitting the rook, and if you play f6, I have queen h5 check, and then your king is going to run for the rest of the game. So that is a piece sacrifice. I think it is an interesting idea to show. So d takes e5 was played in the game, and then pawn to d5, hitting the bishop, and the bishop drops to d3. And after that we have bishop f5 defending further, and here Arjun played knight to d4. In this position, actually Prag can rush with the move pawn to h5 immediately. But after this bishop f5, he plays knight to d4, and then queen to d7. And here actually instead of queen to d7, he could play h5. That's what I actually mentioned earlier, sorry about that. And here he plays king h1. This is the first mistake, or the first and last mistake of the game, I would say, because in this position he is trying to attack the king already. So he is preparing the move pawn to h5. So now you are not doing anything about that. I mean, you are not doing anything to stop that, right? But he is prepared to meet all the open lines against the king, especially the g file, so that he can put the rook on the g file later to meet any attacks. But in the game he played h5, and then after h4 he is trying to open up the h file, I mean open up the g file, so that it looks like it is kind of closed, but the thing is it is going to open up. So here Prag simply played queenside castling. So instead of that, he could have played bishop g4 immediately to hit the queen. So going back in this position, he simply castle, and then queen e2, and then bishop g4, gaining time on the queen. In this position also, queen e2 was not a great move, because in this position you want to play this something like h takes g5. This is the best way to play. But then here comes again bishop to g4, and then queen e1. So you just keep the queen to defend the g3 as well as the f2 squares. So the problem is, after queen e2, he plays bishop g4, hitting the queen, and the queen moves again to e1. There you are losing another tempo, but now you can simply win the game by playing some great move in this position. I want you to pause the video and try to find the winning continuation for Prag. But unfortunately, since it was a blitz game, I guess he couldn't find that. So he played knight to f5, bringing more piece closer to the king side for the attack. But what happened in the or what could have happened better, it is simply to take the knight. I mean, bishop takes d4. It looks like an some weird move, because why you want to capture the knight? It's because your bishop is kind of passive, this knight is centralized, and it is doing some defensive ideas. So that's why you take the centralized knight. And after c takes d4, now you open up the position. After d takes h4, bishop h2, h3, and then you trap the bishop like this by yourself by playing g3. Even the game, I mean the attack is not stopping here, so we can continue with something like bishop f3 check. There is no move for the king except king g1, and then we can play queen g4, rook to g8, and I think h4 is coming. So many attackers on that the fragile g3 square. I think white could not hold this actually. So this was an idea. So after bishop takes d4 idea, but in the game he plays knight f5, very natural move. You bring more piece again. So bishop takes e4, and then after this liquidation d takes e4, he plays queen takes e4, and now comes bishop takes d4. He plays like later after 2-3 moves. So queen c takes d4, g takes h4. Now Pragg tries to open up the position, and here Arjun inserts this in between move e6, and then again Pragg inserts this move, knight takes g3 check, and then f takes g3, and finally he captures the pawn. This position looks like, I think Pragg is up a pawn, but the position, I think the king's position is like, it's like defenseless position. I mean, look at the structure. The pawns are not there to guard the king. That's the problem, main problem we are facing. And here also Arjun played, he made some inaccuracy by playing g takes h4, just opening up the line for the rooks. Instead of that, he could have captured with the queen, just keeping or delaying the inevitable maybe. So queen takes d4, and then queen takes d4, rook takes d4. I think still this ending is better for, or way better for black, and he could easily win the game. But I think he could have tried that variation. So since it was a blitz, again there is no time for think and play all these variations. So g takes h4, and now comes the move rook h g8, the very natural move. I think Pragg is now planning to play the move bishop d5. So and then g2 is I think falling, and then you are not going to stop the mate. And after bishop d4, interesting thing is that the queen can come to h3 because of the pinned pawn. So that's how it works, because of the pin. So right. So here after g takes h4, he plays rook h g8. Instead of that, he could play bishop c4 also. That's a fine move to play. Rook d1, and then you play bishop d5 this way. So once you move the queen, I think rook d8 or even queen check followed by rook move is winning for black. But in the game he plays rook h8, and then knight c3, covering that important d5 square for the bishop. Queen takes d4. Now he says, I am up a pawn. If you want, you can trade the queen. And here actually he plays rook f4, trying to trade in his terms. But here now Pragg avoids the queen trade by playing queen to d2, and now he hits the g2, and the queen cannot go go far away. So queen f3, and now the queen is kind of overloaded, guarding the g2 as well as the f4 square. So he plays the brilliant move, that is rook takes g2. You cannot you can take, but still I can take the rook and bring the other rook into the game, and still white is losing. And here finally Arjun moves his knight and makes a counter attack on the queen. But now he plays rook h2 check, and after king g1, and again you have a beautiful finish here. So he plays rook g8 check, and knight after knight blocking the check, finally you have this bishop move. Thus I think the bishop wants to play this move for a long time. So bishop d5, hitting the queen, and here he plays rook to d1, simply countering the queen's post. And here again you have the chance to play some brilliant stuff here. You can pause the video and try to find that, but unfortunately again Pragg couldn't find that in the blitz game. So he played rook h1 check. In this position actually Arjun resigned the game. And what was the brilliant move here is I think queen to f2 check. So you sack the queen, so king doesn't have any escape square. You have to accept this brilliant queen sacrifice, and then rook h1 is a beautiful mate. So going back in the game after rook h1 check, in this position actually Arjun resigned. Let's see why he resigned. So king takes h1 will be met with queen takes d1, taking advantage of the pinned queen. And once you move the king, we can simplify the position and simply win the ending. So that's why Arjun resigned the game. Post this game, actually the score again was equal after I think 3 tie breaks. 25 plus 10 was equal, and then they forced the 10 plus 10. That was also I think ended up in draw. So again they forced this 5 plus 3. Again it is draw now, because Arjun won the first game and then Pragg won the second game. And finally we had that the thriller 3 plus 2 1 game, and with I think the first game itself I think Pragg won the game. So the score is like a 5 to 4, and now Arjun was eliminated, and Pragg now advances to the semi-finals, where he is going to play against Fabiano Caruana. And one more thing to highlight here is that after Anand, I think Praggnanandhaa is the only player now qualified for the candidates in Indian chess history. I think it's a great thing for Praggnanandhaa. I would say it's a first step towards the the dream of becoming the world champion of many youngsters. But now I think Pragg has achieved the first thing to in order to get into that vibe maybe. So he has the spot in the candidates now. It's a good start, I'm saying, because He is just 18 years old. I think there is a long way to go. So I think he has many chances to become a world champion. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this quick review of this game, and please do subscribe this channel in case if you have not, and press the bell icon to get the future updates instantly. And as usual, this is Chessvisor, your wise choice to improve your chess.